The horrible death of 5 Muammar Gaddafi. The complete history. Part 2. In September and October 2011, the situation in Libya came to a head with the capture and death of Muammar Gaddafi, who had been the country's leader for decades. After the fall of Tripoli and his retreat to Sirte, Gaddafi expressed his willingness to negotiate a transfer to a transitional government, but this suggestion was rejected by the National Transitional Council, NTC. He took refuge in Sirte and lived in constant movement to avoid the NTC bombings, dedicating his time to prayer and reading the Quran. On October 20, 2011, Gaddafi attempted to escape from Sirte in a joint civilian and military convoy. However, this convoy was attacked by NATO, resulting in the destruction of numerous vehicles and the deaths of at least 53 people. Gaddafi and his closest followers dispersed and sought refuge in a nearby village, which was bombed by Misrata rebel militia. While fleeing, Gaddafi and his group hid in drainage pipes while his bodyguards fought the rebels. During this combat, Gaddafi was injured in the head by a grenade explosion, and the Minister of Defense, Abu Bakr Yunus Jabr, lost his life. Gaddafi was captured by the Misrata militia, and during his capture, he suffered serious injuries while they attempted to apprehend him. The events were filmed on a mobile phone and were widely distributed. There is evidence that Gaddafi was beaten and stabbed during his capture. After his capture, Gaddafi was taken to Misrata in critical condition and his death was later announced. Versions of his death varied. Official NTC accounts stated that Gaddafi was caught in crossfire and died from gunshot wounds. However, other witnesses claimed that the rebels fatally shot him in the stomach. Additionally, his son Mutassim, who was also in the convoy, was captured and later found dead, possibly as a result of an extrajudicial execution. A total of around 140 Gaddafi loyalists were detained from the convoy, and the bodies of 66 of them were later found at the Mahari Hotel, victims of extrajudicial execution. Although autopsies were performed on the bodies of Gaddafi, his son, and Jabr, the full autopsy report was not made public. Gaddafi's body was placed in a freezer in a local market and put on public display for 4 days, where many people from Libya came to see it. Images of Gaddafi's death were widely disseminated internationally. In response to international calls, it was announced that a commission would be held to investigate Gaddafi's death, and the NTC announced that Gaddafi had been buried in an unidentified location in the Libyan desert. In 2022, Aisha al-Faturi, a bodyguard of Gaddafi, claimed that Gaddafi had not been assassinated, but rather that the dead person was someone who looked like him, named Hamid Abu Maniar, and that Gaddafi was still leading the resistance. His ideology. Muammar Gaddafi, the Libyan leader, developed a political ideology known as the Third International Theory. This ideology was a response to materialist capitalism and atheistic communism. Gaddafi advocated a new path that rejected the confrontation between the military alliances of Warsaw and the North Atlantic and promoted the idea that all nations of the world are brothers under the rule of God. Gaddafi's ideological worldview was forged from his Bedouin upbringing, his Islamic faith, and his discontent with Italian colonialism in Libya. During his school years, he adopted ideologies such as Arab nationalism and Arab socialism, greatly influenced by the Egyptian leader Nasser. However, Gaddafi developed his own approach called the Third International Theory in the early 1970s, which combined elements of utopian socialism, Arab nationalism, and Third World revolutionary theory. He considered this system as an alternative to Western capitalism and Marxism-Leninism. Arab nationalism was a central value in Gaddafi's ideology. He advocated unity in the Arab world and dreamed of the creation of a single Arab nation-state. Gaddafi also had strong anti-imperialist sentiments and opposed Western imperialism and Israeli expansionism in the Middle East. His ideological approach evolved over time, and towards the 21st century, he became more focused on Pan-Africanism. In terms of religion, Gaddafi promoted Islam as an integral part of his political ideology. He advocated the application of Islamic law in society and saw Islam as inseparable from Arabism. Gaddafi was also an advocate of Islamic socialism, in which property and personal needs were considered sacred and could not be exploited by others. Gaddafi's personal life was secretive and he was often considered a controversial figure. He was known for his volatile temperament and his personal, idiosyncratic approach to Islam. Throughout his tenure, he received both praise and criticism, and his legacy is highly divisive. Some Libyans considered him a leader who improved living conditions and promoted equality, while others saw him as an autocratic and controversial ruler. In short, Muammar Gaddafi developed a political ideology that combined elements of Arab nationalism, socialism, Islam, and anti-imperialism. His Third International theory represented an alternative path to the dominant ideologies of his time and left a highly polarized legacy in the history of Libya and the Arab world. You are in the right place. Our cultural channel offers a wide range of programs to satisfy your historical and cultural curiosity. Historical events: immerse yourself in the most significant events in history with our stories about moments that changed the world. Express reading: get the best summaries and video analysis of popular books in just minutes, so you can enjoy the essence of a work without spending hours reading. The Horrible Death of: explore the shocking and often tragic story behind the deaths of famous people who left a mark on the world. Biographies of Greats: learn about the lives of the most influential figures in history, from kings and queens to revolutionary scientists and artists. Literary criticism: discover in-depth analysis of literary masterpieces and current literary trends. Subscribe now and stay up to date with our programs. History, literature, and video analysis await you on our cultural channel. Do not miss it. A little more about Muammar Gaddafi: if you like our content and you are not yet subscribed, subscribe, like, and share. This way you help us make more videos. Thank you. Legacy and influence in the world. Muammar Gaddafi's legacy and influence on the world is highly controversial and has left a lasting mark on Libyan history and international politics. Its influence can be seen in several aspects. Politics in Libya: Gaddafi ruled Libya for more than 4 decades, from 1969 until his overthrow in 2011. During his rule, he established an autocratic regime with centralized control over Libyan politics, the economy, and society. His leadership style and ideological approach left deep divisions in Libyan society. Following its fall in 2011, Libya entered a period of conflict and political fragmentation that continues to this day. Ideology: Gaddafi developed a unique political ideology known as the Third International theory, which combined elements of socialism, Arab nationalism, Islamism, and anti-imperialism. Although this ideology did not have a significant impact globally, it influenced the internal and foreign policy of Libya and some Islamic extremist groups. Support for rebel and terrorist groups: during his time in power, Gaddafi supported a number of rebel and terrorist groups around the world. This included providing shelter and funding to organizations such as the Provisional Irish Republican Army, IRA, as well as supporting insurgent groups in Africa and the Middle East. His support for these groups had an impact on Libya's international relations and contributed to its isolation in the international community. Participation in regional conflicts: Gaddafi played an active role in several regional conflicts, including his intervention in Chad in the 1980s and his support for rebel groups in neighboring countries such as Sudan and Niger. These efforts led to regional tensions and prolonged conflicts. International relations: throughout his mandate, Gaddafi maintained complicated and changing relations with other nations. At times, he sought greater openness and cooperation with the West, while at other times he adopted an anti-Western and anti-imperialist stance. Its relationship with the United States and other Western countries was tumultuous, and Libya was subject to international sanctions for many years. Legacy in the Arab world. Gaddafi influenced politics in the Arab world through his Arab nationalist rhetoric and his quest for Arab unity. Although his efforts to promote Arab unity did not meet with lasting success, his influence was felt in the region. In conclusion, Muammar Gaddafi was a polarizing and controversial figure in the political history of Libya and on the international stage. His vision for his country and his goals were marked by a unique ideology and a personalistic approach to leadership. Gaddafi sought to establish a system that combined elements of socialism, Arab nationalism, Islam, and anti-imperialism. He wanted to carry out a social and economic revolution in Libya, eliminating inequalities and redistributing wealth for the benefit of the population. However, his autocratic governing style and authoritarian policies led to a deep division in Libyan society. As his regime consolidated, he faced internal resistance and became increasingly isolated in the international arena due to his support for rebel groups and his anti-imperialist rhetoric. Outside powers, particularly the West, often had an ambivalent relationship with Gaddafi. Over the course of their tenure, they moved from hostility and isolation to seeking greater cooperation and eventually supporting rebel forces during the Arab Spring in 2011. This was due in part to their history of supporting groups' insurgents and their unpredictable leadership style. Ultimately, Gaddafi's fall in 2011 marked a turning point in Libyan history and regional politics. While his vision of a transformed Libya did not fully materialize, his legacy lives on in the form of a fractured and conflicted nation. His experience also serves as a reminder of how relationships between autocratic leaders and outside powers can be volatile and changeable on the international stage. In summary, Muammar Gaddafi was an enigmatic figure whose vision and goals for his country and its relationship with outside powers left a complex and controversial legacy that continues to be the subject of study and debate in international politics. Discover more about culture and knowledge. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to enjoy educational and entertaining content. Broaden your horizons and stay informed. Subscribe now and don't miss any of our updates. See you soon.